fellow Pokemaniacs, and welcome to my review and discussion of Pokemon Generations Episode 6, which detailed the legend of Ho-Oh, and how it revived and created the three legendary beasts, Raikou, Entei, and Suicune. I'm so glad that this episode came out on the same day as Pokemon Generations Episode 5, because in my humble opinion, Generations Episode 5 really wasn't all that exciting. This one right here, though, was really interesting. Immediately I was sucked into this episode, which detailed the origins of the legendary beasts Raikou, Entei, and Suicune. Of course, if you've played the games, this is all going to seem very familiar to you. However, the imagery in this episode was pretty damned amazing. According to the legend in this episode, in the past, in the massive burned tower, were three nameless Pokemon that no one has ever seen before. Now, I always assumed that these three nameless Pokemon were just that, Raikou, Entei, and Suicune. Apparently they're Pokemon that we've never seen before, and when they died in this tower, they were revived by Ho-Oh, the legendary bird of awesomeness. Now, what's interesting is that Ho-Oh not only revived these creatures, but gave them legendary status by giving them a huge upgrade in terms of power. You have the lightning-infused Raikou, the fire-powered Entei, and the cool-as-water Suicune. However, as badass and elegant as these Pokemon looked, a lot of the people who lived in Reawakening City shunned these things. They saw them as simply just monsters and not just Pokemon, and they decided to just scare them all away with their torches and their damn pitchforks. Which is why these Pokemon are so elusive in the games, and you have to spend most of the post-game just tracking them down. Another cool thing about this episode is that it brought in the character of Suicune, a character who was very important in Pokemon Crystal, which is a game that I've never played, but I know a lot about it. And Suicune is one of the most important elements of that game, and he's of course important in this episode as well, as Suicune is constantly trying to track him down, and even sees the Suicune at the end of the episode. I will say the overall design of these three creatures in this episode was just fantastic. They all looked so regal and amazing, and I like how their elements actually showed, like when they were running away at the end, like with Raikou having this like weird yellowish energy around him, Suicune having the blue, and of course Entei having the fiery red colors. But it is interesting that the citizens just decided to turn on these creatures, like, especially after these three Pokemon were trapped in this giant burning building. Just, it's kind of strange how quick they were able to turn on him. And I never really thought about it before, and you know, maybe it's just because I never noticed when I was playing it in the old game and things are more detailed in Pokemon Generations. But the overall design of Reawakening City and most of Johto in general is heavily built upon Japanese culture. And you know what, it makes sense. It's a Japanese video game. You'd expect there to be a lot of that in there. But the Johto region definitely takes a lot of inspiration from classic Japan, and that flashback made it all the more clear. It is interesting to see people still using Pokemon during that time period, though, and to see how long these things have actually lived. They're mysterious, they're awesome, and I love them. So what's the rundown on this episode of Pokemon Generations? Another pretty decent episode of the series, building upon another element of the story from the games and giving us the origins of the three legendary beasts and their connection to Ho-Oh, who is one of the mascots of Pokemon Gold and Silver. Really, that's all I have to say about this episode. It was just a really nice visual to see their origins, to see the actual burned tower, and to know that at some point they were nameless Pokemon that we've never actually seen before. I wonder if in the future we'll ever get to see what those nameless Pokemon actually were and what they looked like. This episode hinted that they might be some sort of weird dog-like creatures, and that makes sense. A lot of people have always considered these legendary beasts like the legendary dogs, despite the fact that Raikou looks a lot like a saber-toothed tiger. That being said, I still think this was a pretty damn good episode. I really like when they take the legendary myths of Pokemon and they turn them into these episodes. Those are definitely some of the more interesting elements of the entire Pokemon universe. That being said, I liked this episode. I just wish there was more of it. It sucks that these shorts have to be so very damn short. I mean, they really take the whole short thing seriously. I mean, in 4 minutes, this episode is over. And I would have liked to have at least gotten like a Pokemon battle or an action scene or anything, but just getting to see the legendary beasts born and roar into the air, the badassness of Ho-Oh, it was still pretty damn satisfying. So I'm going to give this episode right here a 4 out of 5. Another solid episode of Pokemon Generations, which continues to still have good production value. We just want more of it. Simple as that. So, you heard my thoughts about this week's episode, but I want to hear from you guys. What did you think about this episode of Pokémon Generations? And do you have a favorite member of the legendary beasts? My personal favorite is Raikou. Which one is your favorite? Please tell me in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave me a comment. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.